My name was Ahmed. I was a respected hospital director in Zurich, a man of tradition, of rules, of faith. I walked through the sterile halls lined with medical charts and beeping machines, my heart heavy with silence. Every day, I led prayers, my voice rising above the hum of a modern world, but inside me, a void. It took the darkest moment of my life for the light to break through. It happened during one of those prayers, a call to something beyond my understanding. I collapsed, my body surrendered to the coldness of despair. As I fell, I wasn't just slipping into unconsciousness, I was crossing into another realm. I found myself in a place thick with shadows, isolated and frightened. Then, from the depths of that darkness, a radiance emerged. He called my name, Jesus. The one I had only ever heard of, portrayed as a distant figure, but in that moment it was clear. I was confronted with the truth of a spiritual war, one that history masked with veils of religion and tradition. I was shown how my devout practices had unwittingly bound me, how my faith became a distraction, obscuring the deep, transformative love that had been waiting for me. It was a moment of revelation that ignited an inner conflict upon my return. How could I reconcile this experience with the life I had led, the faith I had known? I was labeled a traitor by those who once respected me, faced with the gnawing fear of isolation as I sought a path forward in secrecy. Yet, deep within, a flame began to flicker, urging me to seek the truth, to connect with those who had tread this rocky path before. Now, as I share my story, I invite you to join me on a journey of awakening. There are many souls lost in the shadows, trapped by misconceptions and fear. What I've discovered isn't just a personal truth, it's a call to liberation. But before we dive deeper, I want to hear from you. Where are you watching from, and what time is it right now in your corner of the world? And if you share this longing for truth, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. Your journey to revelation starts here. Together, let's uncover the layers of light hidden in the darkness. In the modern hospital, where I serve as director, the atmosphere is a blend of cultural and religious diversity. Yet it often feels steeped in an overwhelming sense of apathy. My name is Amina, and every day, I witness the dedicated efforts of healthcare professionals who pour their hearts into their work. Yet amidst their compassion, I've sensed a growing disconnection from the spiritual essence of our lives. The hustle and bustle, the sterile corridors, and the constant urgency of medical emergencies can dull even the most devoted caregivers, spirits. As we rush through our routines, I see a spiritual war unfolding within, where the search for meaning is overshadowed by the demands of our jobs. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, I found a rare moment of solitude in the hospital's prayer room. Seeking refuge from the relentless pace, I lit a candle and knelt, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos. It was there, in the stillness, that something shifted. As I closed my eyes to pray, I felt the weight of emptiness lift, replaced by a profound light. The darkness that often lurked in the corners of my mind faded as I encountered the radiant presence of Jesus. In that divine moment, I realized I wasn't just praying in a quiet room, I was experiencing a powerful awakening. Amina. He called softly, and that single word reverberated within me, igniting a deep understanding that transcended my usual thoughts. Jesus began to reveal unsettling truths about our world, exposing the hidden agendas of the elite and how they manipulate belief systems for control and power. I saw how deception had woven its way into the very fabric of our society, shaping politics and social dynamics in ways that kept people from truly connecting with one another. The revelation impacted me profoundly, revealing the spiritual war one had sensed not only in myself but in the hearts of those around me. As the visions unfolded, I was shown the struggles of humanity, wars fueled by greed, refugees fleeing violence, and divisions between cultures that seemed insurmountable. Each image struck a chord within me, underscoring the urgency of awakening to the truth. I understood that our faith, if properly nurtured, could serve as a bridge rather than a barrier. Jesus emphasized that while many were caught in cycles of fear and compliance, an awakening was possible, and it was essential for collective healing and unity. This understanding electrified my spirit. It felt as though I had stumbled upon a responsibility greater than myself. Suddenly, I was pulled back to the realities of my surroundings, gasping for breath as I returned to the prayer room. I was filled with a new sense of purpose and urgency, yet the fear of sharing this revelation loomed large. How would my colleagues react? Would they dismiss my experience as mystical nonsense? I understood that breaking the silence surrounding my newfound faith could expose me to judgment and alienation. Nonetheless, I felt called to share the truth I had encountered, to challenge the spiritual apathy that had crept into the hearts of those around me. With each prayer, I began to gather the courage necessary to serve as a voice of awakening, hoping to inspire others in our community to seek the truth and break free from the deceptions that had long kept us shackled. In the bustling heart of Zurich, I command respect as the director of a prominent hospital. My name is Ahmed, and at 45, I'm seen as a model of discipline and professionalism. Yet beneath the polished surface lies a profound emptiness, an internal struggle that grips me tightly. Though I am admired within my community and have dedicated my life to the service of others, I often find myself grappling with a dissatisfaction that strikes at the core of my spiritual life. The pressure to conform to religious norms has created a cage of expectations around me, and each prayer I offer begins to feel more like an obligation than a genuine connection to the divine. At times, the weight of these expectations becomes unbearable. I find myself drifting into moments of quiet introspection, pondering the deeper meaning of my actions and the very beliefs I uphold. On more than one occasion, I've had dreams that lead me into dark, unsettling places, visions filled with shadows that whispered doubts and fears into my heart. During these restless nights, I question whether my devotion has truly brought me closer to God, or if it has merely served to solidify the barriers that keep me from experiencing profound spiritual joy. It's a painful struggle, marked by confusion and a longing for something more. Then one evening, as I sought solace in the hospital's prayer room, everything changed. I closed my eyes and began to pray, hoping for clarity amidst the chaos of my mind. It was there that darkness enveloped me, and in that void I encountered an overwhelming light that I could hardly comprehend. From that brilliant illumination emerged Jesus, radiating an unconditional love and peace. Ahmed. He called my name, and in that moment I felt every burden I carried begin to dissolve. The fear and uncertainty that had haunted me vanished, replaced by an all-encompassing understanding as Jesus began to share profound revelations. As he spoke, the complexities of the world began to unravel before my eyes. Jesus unveiled the hidden agendas of the elite, how they manipulate faith and cultural beliefs to perpetuate division and strife. I witnessed the spiritual war that raged not only within but across society at large, revealing how fear is weaponized to control the masses. The image of ordinary people, caught in cycles of ignorance and deception, haunted me. I understood that spiritual awakening was essential, not just for my journey but for the liberation of countless souls yearning for truth. The facade that had concealed reality began to lift, and I felt an intense call to action, an urgency to share this revelation with others. Yet, as I emerged from that transcendent experience, I couldn't ignore the fear that gripped my heart. The daunting task of breaking the silence about my encounter weighed heavily on me. I was acutely aware that speaking out could lead to rejection from my family and the very community that had shaped me. The thought of being labeled a traitor for my beliefs churned in my stomach like a storm. Still, I felt an undeniable push toward sharing the truths I had been shown, the love and acceptance that Jesus represented. I couldn't allow the fear of judgment to stifle my voice. With each heartbeat, I knew that the time to act was now. I had experienced a spiritual awakening, and it was my duty to encourage others to find their path to truth, even if the road was fraught with personal costs. My mission had begun, and I was ready to confront whatever lay ahead in this journey toward awakening. During my daily prayers, I often found myself confronted by a profound sense of emptiness. My name is Ahmed, and as the director of a hospital in Zurich, I carry the weight of responsibility for the lives of countless patients. Yet, amidst the chaos of medical emergencies and the relentless demands of my profession, I began to question the efficacy of my faith. Each prayer felt like a ritual rather than a connection, a recitation that echoed in the stillness while my heart remained untouched. I started to feel a growing disconnection from the spiritual essence I sought, and I wondered if my beliefs were merely comforting traditions rather than genuine bridges to the divine. My nights became restless, filled with unsettling dreams that hinted at deeper truths. In these dreams, shadows engulfed me, and I wandered through dark landscapes that felt both familiar and foreign. They sparked an internal dialogue that questioned the limitations of my beliefs. Was I simply adhering to the teachings of my upbringing out of obligation? Or was there a deeper truth I had yet to uncover? Each night, I awakened with a knot in my stomach, feeling that something significant was missing from my life, a spiritual awakening that eluded me amid the safety of routine. Then, one fateful evening, as I retreated to the prayer room seeking solace, everything changed. I remember kneeling down, closing my eyes, and pouring out my heart in silence. It was there, in that sacred space, that I slipped away from consciousness into a realm of pure light. Suddenly, Jesus stood before me, radiant and full of compassion. Ahmed, he called, and his voice resonated like thunder, filling me with an overwhelming sense of peace. In that moment, the burdens I carried slipped away as I was enveloped in the warmth of his presence. As Jesus spoke, he began to unveil the hidden agendas of the elite, how they manipulate faith and use deception to maintain control over societies. I witnessed the intricate web of lies that perpetuate division, seeing how easily people are led astray by false narratives that incite fear and mistrust. The spiritual war that had been playing out in my heart was mirrored in the lives of countless others, each struggling to navigate the shadows of their own existence. I felt an urgency in his message, recognizing the need for awakening in a world drowning in ignorance and despair. As the light around him began to fade, I felt a powerful urge to return to my life. I woke in the prayer room, gasping for breath, overwhelmed by the revelation that had been bestowed upon me. I understood now that my role as a hospital director extended far beyond mere administration. It was a call to share the truth I had received. The weight of responsibility settled heavily on my shoulders. I knew that by breaking my silence, I would confront the fears of rejection from my family and community, but the truth I discovered would not allow me to remain silent any longer. There was a world in need of awakening, and I would do everything in my power to help others find the light that I had glimpsed. With renewed determination, I prepared to step into the mission that awaited me, knowing that the journey ahead would be challenging, yet filled with hope and purpose. During a quiet moment in the prayer room, a strange wave of dizziness washed over me. My name is Ahmed, and I'm a hospital director in Zurich, a position I've held with pride for many years. But as I knelt there, seeking solace and connection with God, an unsettling feeling gripped my heart. It had been an exhausting day, filled with the pressures of managing a complex healthcare environment and overseeing a diverse staff. The rituals I performed felt increasingly hollow, and as I recited my prayers, I couldn't shake the growing realization that I was facing a spiritual void, a disconnection from the faith I had long embodied. In an overwhelming moment, I lost consciousness, and suddenly I plunged into darkness. It was oppressive, thick as fog, where time stood still, and I could hear only my own heartbeat echoing in the silence. Fear gripped me, but it was soon replaced by an incredible light that broke through the shadows. As the brilliance enveloped me, I felt a warmth unlike anything I had ever experienced. In that radiant light stood Jesus, his presence radiating love, acceptance, and understanding. Ahmed, he called my name, and in that single moment, every doubt I had melted away. Jesus began to engage me in profound revelations, illuminating truths that were unsettling but necessary. He spoke of the hidden agendas orchestrated by the elite, the ways they manipulated beliefs and exploited fear to control society. I saw how religious systems, while often well-intentioned, had become distractions, leading people away from genuine faith and straight into a trap of compliance and division. It was a painful but necessary understanding, revealing the spiritual war being waged for the hearts and minds of humanity. As the light grew brighter, I felt an urgent need to share this awakening. The experiences of individuals around the world, of suffering, division, and misunderstanding, were all tied to a greater deception. Jesus revealed to me how current events, wars, and social unrest were fueled by these hidden agendas, perpetuated by those who sat at the top, enjoying power and influence while the masses remained disoriented. I understood that our awareness, our awakening to the truth, was the first step to breaking free from the chains that bound us. Just as I began to grasp the enormity of this calling, I felt the dark veil pulling me back to my physical body. I awoke with a start in the hospital prayer room, gasping for breath, overwhelmed by what I had seen and heard. A new sense of purpose filled my heart, but doubt crept in as I realized the powerful stakes involved. How could I share these revelations without facing rejection? The thought of losing everything I had known, the respect of my colleagues, the acceptance of my community, was daunting. Yet the urgency to speak out against the deception, the desperate need to facilitate awakening in others, burned brighter within me than any fear of repercussions. I knew I had to embrace this truth and allow it to guide my path forward, no matter the cost. As I stirred into consciousness, the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital room bit at my eyes, pulling me back to a reality I barely recognized. My name is Ahmed, and I am the director of this hospital in Zurich. However, the last few weeks have been nothing short of a spiritual battleground, one that began when I encountered Jesus during a near-death experience. Waking up after that profound moment of revelation should have filled me with hope, but instead, I was met with the cold reality of rejection. Friends and family, People I had trusted my whole life branded me a traitor simply for questioning my faith. It felt as though my entire world was collapsing around me. In those first few days after awakening, I was consumed by guilt and fear. Guilt for the pain my new beliefs caused those I loved, and fear of the isolation that seemed inevitable. I spent hours replaying conversations in my mind, imagining the disappointment in my father's eyes, or the anger in my mother's voice. It felt unbearable to think I had ventured into spiritual territory that set me apart from my own family, the very foundation of my life. The deeper my faith in Jesus grew, the more I felt the chasm widen between us. I yearned for their acceptance, but knew it might be impossible now that I had uncovered the truth behind the deception we had all been living. To cope with the turmoil brewing inside, I turned to prayer. However, the words I once found comforting now felt hollow, shadowed by the questions that plagued me. Even the rhythmic familiarity of daily prayers could not assuage my growing unease. Instead, I began to navigate this new terrain in secret, reading the Bible and listening to testimonies of others who had also transformed their lives through faith. The struggle for understanding was relentless, but the powerful revelations I received urged me forward. Each scripture illuminated aspects of the hidden agenda I had witnessed in society, how the elite manipulate our beliefs, perpetuating social division and distraction. I faced a tension I had never anticipated. The potential to awaken from this spiritual deception while walking a tightrope of social acceptance. And then, as if beckoned by an unseen force, I found a small group of like-minded individuals who had also experienced profound transformations. Together we discussed our journeys, sharing our fears and triumphs in a safe space. It was there that I learned I was not alone in this spiritual war, that others were navigating the same minefields of doubt I faced. This support provided a flicker of hope amidst crushing isolation. Despite these connections, doubts continued to creep in. The fear of how my community would react kept me up at night. I envisioned conversations that could lead to conflict, or worse, estrangement from those I cherished. Yet, as we shared our stories and the revelations we received, the urgency of our mission became evident. We felt the calling to raise awareness of the deception that had kept our lives stagnant and our faith confined. It was during these discussions that I realized my purpose was unfolding before me, to spread the awakening that had so profoundly changed my life and to confront the spiritual challenges facing our society head-on, no matter the personal cost. In the quiet solitude of my hospital's prayer room, I found myself at a crossroads. My name is Ahmed, and as the director of a bustling hospital in Zurich, I've dedicated 2 decades to serving my community. Despite the respect I've garnered, an unsettling emptiness has seeped into my soul, whispering doubts about the conventional beliefs I've held dear. Each time I entered that prayer room seeking solace, I felt a weight pressing down on me, an invisible barrier separating me from the connection I so desperately yearned for. The rituals that once felt profound now left me grappling with dissatisfaction and a longing for deeper truth. In the stillness of the prayer room, I began to uncover hidden layers of my faith. After a particularly challenging week filled with the harsh realities of life and death decisions in the hospital, I felt an intense urge to seek something beyond what I knew. I found myself drawn to online Christian communities, drawn by stories of transformation and awakening. Here, I discovered individuals who spoke of encounters with Jesus that changed their lives dramatically. Their experiences, powerful, emotional, and compelling, resonated with an inner truth I had yet to articulate. As I listened and learned, I began to understand that I wasn't alone in my search for meaning. The deeper I delved into these discussions, the more I felt a profound sense of peace envelop me. I started praying openly to Jesus, acknowledging my doubts while longing for clarity and purpose. Each prayer felt like a step towards liberation, and I increasingly yearned for a symbol of this newfound faith, a secret baptism that would mark my spiritual rebirth. The thought of truly committing to this path ignited a spark of hope within me, juxtaposed with the fear of losing everything I had known: my career, my family, and my community. However, the specter of a hidden agenda loomed large in my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that those in power, those elite forces that manipulate societal narratives to maintain control, were trying to keep me from awakening fully. I envisioned the countless individuals who lived in the shadows of deception, unaware of the spiritual war being waged for their minds and hearts. I felt a call to action, a need to raise awareness about these manipulations, even if it meant jeopardizing my relationships and the status I had carefully built. As days turned into weeks, I grappled with this inner unrest, standing on the precipice of a significant decision. The urgency to share what I had learned grew increasingly intense, compelling me to take a stand against the tide of apathy that seemed to drown so many in our community. I would need the courage to confront both the external pressures from society and the internal fears of rejection. I was determined to be a voice for truth and awakening, even if it cost me dearly. With every step I took towards my faith, I felt the heaviness lift, replaced by a clarity that affirmed my mission to navigate this spiritual war and inspire others to embrace the truths that could set us all free. As I sat in the quiet prayer room of the hospital, a wave of uncertainty washed over me. My name is Ahmed, and as a director, I've spent years navigating the complexities of healthcare and the well-being of my patients. I dedicated my life to serving others, yet lately, I felt a gnawing emptiness creeping into my soul. Each prayer I offered felt more like a routine than a genuine connection, and the internal conflict was becoming unbearable. I could no longer ignore the doubts that plagued my heart, whispering questions about my faith and the very foundation upon which I'd built my beliefs. The pivotal moment came unexpectedly during a particularly grueling day at the hospital. After dealing with the aftermath of a tragic accident, I collapsed from exhaustion. It was in that moment of darkness that I found myself slipping into a realm where time and space faded away. In this void, I encountered a radiant light, and within that light, I recognized Jesus. His presence was both overwhelming and comforting, and as he called my name, I felt an indescribable warmth infusing my very being. "Ahmed," he said, and in that instant I felt seen, as if every doubt and fear within me had been laid bare before him. As we connected, Jesus began to reveal truths that had been obscured by the deception woven into the fabric of our society. He showed me the hidden agenda of the elite, how they manipulate faith and beliefs to sow division among people. The oppression I witnessed within my community suddenly made sense. I realized that the spiritual war one had sensed for so long was not just an internal conflict. It was a fight against the forces that sought to keep humanity in bondage to ignorance and fear. As these revelations unfolded before me, I felt an urgent call to awaken from the slumber I had been in. I watched as layers of societal control peeled away, exposing the realities behind the conflicts we face. Wars driven by greed, division sparked by propaganda, and the societal structures that keep us compliant. In that moment, I knew my understanding of spirituality had shifted completely. It wasn't just about personal salvation. It was about confronting the lies that chain us all. I felt the weight of responsibility settle upon my shoulders. My experience was meant to propel me toward action, to become a voice for the voiceless, challenging the deception that binds so many to a life of hardship and separation. When I finally awoke in the prayer room, gasping for breath, I was filled with a sense of clarity and purpose that I had never known. Though fear loomed large regarding how my family and colleagues would react to my awakening, I felt a fire igniting within me. The revelations from Jesus were too significant to keep silent. My duty now lay in sharing the power of truth that could liberate others, even if it meant risking my acceptance within my own community. I knew I had to embrace this new mission, sowing the seeds of awakening and love wherever I could, even in the face of adversity. The path ahead might be fraught with challenges, but with Jesus guiding me, I was prepared to walk this journey and confront the spiritual war unfolding around us. As I made the decision to leave my old life behind, a mix of excitement and fear coursed through my veins. My name is Ahmed, and as the director of a hospital in Zurich, I had built a career and a life around serving others. Yet, after my encounter with Jesus, everything had changed. The revelations I received about the hidden agendas of the elite and the ongoing spiritual war enveloping our society had ignited a fire within me, a calling I could no longer ignore. I felt compelled to resign from my position, to embrace my faith fully and openly, no longer held back by the chains of societal expectations or fear of rejection. Relocating to a new city where I could freely practice my beliefs felt both liberating and daunting. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on me, but as I drove away from my past, I also felt a sense of lightness. I knew that this change represented not just a physical move, but a profound spiritual awakening. I was ready to step into a role that allowed me to evangelize, to share the truth of Jesus with others who might be lost in the shadows of deception. The idea of spreading his message filled my heart with a conviction I had once thought impossible. Arriving in this new community was both exhilarating and overwhelming. I spent my days connecting with people, sharing my testimony of transformation, and encouraging others to seek the truth hidden beneath layers of fear. Many in this diverse neighborhood were struggling, caught in cycles of doubt and division. They needed a voice to guide them toward love and understanding. I felt a rush of energy each time I opened my mouth to speak, witnessing the flicker of recognition in someone as I shared my story. It was as if I was planting seeds of awakening, sparking curiosity and hope in the hearts of those yearning for something deeper. However, the fear of repercussions loomed over me like a dark cloud. Would I face backlash from those in my family or my old community? Would they consider me a traitor for breaking away? In moments of quiet reflection, those fears threatened to undermine my resolve. Yet, as I prayed and sought guidance from Jesus, I realized that this mission was bigger than myself. The importance of standing firm in my beliefs, advocating for love, and confronting the spiritual war was a responsibility I could not take lightly. The desire to be a beacon of hope overshadowed the risks, urging me to forge ahead with unwavering commitment. With each passing day, I leaned into my new role as an evangelist, sharing the light of revelation that Jesus had bestowed upon me. As I spoke of the manipulation of faith by those in power and the urgent need for awakening, the reactions I encountered varied widely. Some embraced the message eagerly, while others recoiled in fear or disbelief. Nevertheless, I was determined to continue sowing the seeds of truth. This journey was not merely about my spiritual rebirth. It was about challenging the status quo and awakening the hearts and minds of others. The revelations I experienced compelled me forward, igniting a passionate fire to share the transformative power of faith. and I was ready to face whatever came next. 1 year has passed since I made the choice to step away from my old life and embrace my newfound faith. But the echoes of that decision continue to resonate in my heart. My name is Ahmed, and as I navigate my mission as a hospital director in Zurich, I've witnessed firsthand the transformative impact my story has had on others. Every day brings new opportunities to connect with those who feel lost, unsure, or trapped in a world filled with deception. As I share my testimony, I see the flicker of awakening in their eyes, a reflection of the journey I once undertook, filled with doubt and fear, but ultimately illuminated by truth. Reflecting on the year, I often remember the darkness I experienced during my near-death encounter. Jesus, in his radiant glory, revealed the hidden agendas of the elite, how they manipulate beliefs to control society and maintain division among us. This spiritual war is not just a distant theory, it plays out in the choices we make every day. I share these revelations with others, urging them to see the complexities of our world and the importance of engaging with the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. The emotions of that time still grip me, making me passionate about enlightening others to the deceptions that surround us. I've learned to approach these conversations with empathy, understanding that many are grappling with their own spiritual crises. As they open up to me, I hear stories of doubt, fear, and feelings of isolation similar to my own. The sense of connection is palpable, and with each dialogue, I feel a renewed sense of purpose. People are awakening to the truth. They are realizing that faith can be more than a set of rituals. It can be a profound relationship with Jesus that transcends cultural boundaries and societal expectations. Seeing others embrace this awakening is a powerful reminder of how important it is to share my experience. Yet, even as I engage with the community, a shadow of longing persists. The desire for reconciliation with my family remains alive within my heart. Each prayer I offer includes a heartfelt plea for healing and understanding, hoping that one day they will see the truth that has transformed my life. The fear of condemnation still lingers, and the thought of rejection from those I love is a heavy burden. I find myself caught between the joy of my mission and the sorrow of separation, a duality that keeps pushing me to continue striving for connection. As I witness the positive changes in those I reach, I'm reminded that my journey has only just begun. There is an ever-growing urgency to spread the message of hope and love, especially in a world rife with chaos and division. Each day I approach my work with a spirit of conviction, equipped with the truths I've embraced. Jesus has equipped me to fight against the deception that plagues so many lives, and I refuse to let fear dictate my actions. The path of awakening is not without adversity, but it is one I am now honored to walk, ready to face both internal and external challenges as I share my story and inspire a movement of truth. As I navigated the whirlwind of emotions in my life, I found myself increasingly enshrouded in doubt. My name is Ahmed, a hospital director in Zurich, a role I fulfilled with pride, but one that had become riddled with a sense of confinement. For years, I adhered to my faith as best as I could, performing daily prayers and guiding my staff, yet I felt an aching emptiness deep in my heart. With every recitation, I sensed a disconnect, as though my faith didn't penetrate the surface of my existence. The spiritual deception surrounding me became starker, making the spiritual war within even more palpable. Everything shifted dramatically during a moment of stillness. I had just returned to my prayer room after a long and grueling day filled with decisions that weighed heavily on my conscience. As I knelt down, fatigue enveloped me, and I felt myself slipping away from reality. In that moment, darkness consumed me, and I crossed over into an unseen realm where time held no meaning. Suddenly, amidst the void, a radiant light appeared, illuminating the darkness with an intensity I had never known. From this light emerged Jesus, and when he spoke my name, it echoed in the depths of my soul, awakening a profound sense of connection. In his presence, I understood that this was not mere coincidence. This was a divine intervention. Jesus began to share revelations with me, unlocking the truths behind the facades that permeated my life. I saw the hidden agendas of the elite, the political machinations that fomented fear and division. The layers of deception peeled away, and I witnessed how organized structures within society manipulated faith and culture, keeping people in chains of ignorance. The reality of our world, filled with suffering and conflict, suddenly made sense. The spiritual war was not just personal, it was a universal struggle that would require unwavering courage to confront the forces that kept humanity shackled to false narratives. As Jesus continued to enlighten me, images of today's turmoil occupied my mind. Wars being waged under the guise of righteousness, leaders who peddled fear as a means of control, and the vast technology designed to manipulate perception and maintain compliance. It was a stark and urgent call to action, and as I absorbed the weight of this knowledge, I felt both a sense of responsibility and a burning desire to share what I had learned. This experience was not only a gift for me, it was an obligation to awaken those lost in the fog of confusion. Waking up back in the prayer room was disorienting, but the clarity and purpose within me burned brighter than ever. I sought to convey the truth I had received, recognizing the immediate need for awakening in a world rife with disinformation. Yet, the fear of isolation persisted, echoing in the corners of my thoughts. I knew that revealing my transformation could alienate me from my family and community, but the urgency to speak out outweighed the apprehension. I was determined to step into the light of my new reality, sharing not only my journey but also the hope that truth could foster connection and healing. Each moment would become an opportunity to confront the deception that binds us and to embrace the mission of spreading love and understanding as I prepared to engage in a battle for hearts and minds in this ongoing spiritual war. Now that you've journeyed with me through the depths of darkness and light, I must ask you, have you ever sensed a stirring in your spirit, a calling that challenges the very core of your beliefs? In our rapidly changing world, are you aware of the unseen forces pulling at the strings of society, manipulating faith and understanding? Because the truth is, we are all part of something much larger, a spiritual war that transcends our individual experiences, urging us to awaken. My encounter with Jesus was not merely a personal revelation. It was a clarion call to recognize the layers of deception woven into our lives, a charge to resist the complacency that so many have settled for. When he called my name, it became clear. I wasn't just being shown the darkness, I was being entrusted with the light, tasked with illuminating the truth for others. And now, the question remains, how many others are waiting for someone to guide them through the shadows? So I urge you, share your thoughts, your experiences, your awakenings in the comments below. Have you felt that urge to step away from the crowd and seek a deeper truth? Your voice matters, and together we can create a community of seekers and awakeners, standing firm against the currents of ignorance. And if this message resonates with you, don't leave without subscribing to Truth from Beyond and activating the notification bell. Your engagement fuels our mission and ensures that together we can continue revealing the layers of light hidden within the darkness. Take this step with us. and be a part of the awakening. In our next video, we will explore another powerful testimony, one that reveals the unyielding love that can be found even in the direst of circumstances. My name is Ahmed, and I thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, the pursuit of truth is not just a personal endeavor. It's a shared journey toward freedom for all of us.